Hey, this is Brooke, functional medicine dietitian specializing in fertility, and this is the Fertility Dietitian podcast, where I help you uncover the barriers that are preventing you from optimizing your fertility and teach you how to work with your body to finally take home a healthy baby. Each week, I will be diving into different topics on fertility and sharing my perspective on physiology, metabolic health, nutrition, and lifestyle approaches that have helped hundreds of couples get pregnant even after years of heartache. My goal is to empower you with the knowledge you need to take back control of your fertility. Happy listening. Welcome back to the Fertility Dietitian podcast. In today's episode, we are talking about birth control. I've wanted to record this episode for a long time because it is what I think is one of the biggest gaps in women's health care, because it's often prescribed way too soon without informed consent. If you took birth control, potentially as a teenager, there's a good chance that your doctor told you it was safe, it was effective, and that you could just stop it whenever you were ready to get pregnant or you just wanted to stop it. But what many of us weren't told is that research has continued to evolve over the past 2 decades. And we now know a lot more about what hormonal birth control does outside of preventing pregnancy. This episode is not about fear. And it's certainly not about blaming women who chose birth control. And it is definitely not about saying birth control should never be used. There are situations where hormonal contraceptives can absolutely be appropriate and beneficial. This episode is about informed consent, because if nobody tells you the risks or the benefits and the potential long-term consequences, your choice was never fully informed to begin with. You deserve all of the information. Your daughters deserve it. Your nieces deserve it. And if you're trying to conceive today after spending years on hormonal birth control, you deserve to know that there are ways to rebuild your health and your fertility, because this isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of understanding what your body actually needs. So I want to start with my own story because this topic is very personal. I started birth control when I was about 15 years old. Like so many girls, it wasn't because I needed contraception. It was prescribed for acne, and I was told it was harmless. Nobody explained that the synthetic estrogen and progesterones could, really impact my nutrient stores and my gut health, my immune system, or my bones. Nobody mentioned that puberty isn't actually finished once you start your period. In fact, bone development, hormonal maturation, reproductive development really continue through the late teenage years and often until you're around like 18 or 19 years old. Irregular cycles during adolescence are often completely normal while the brain and ovaries are learning to communicate with one another. Instead of supporting that process, we often shut it down with birth control. I personally stayed on birth control for just over 10 years, and years later I developed, not years later, and within those years I developed Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, and celiac disease. And I want to be very clear, birth control did not single-handedly cause my autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune disease is incredibly complex. Genetics matter, nutrition matters, stress matters, environmental toxins and gut health matters, infections matter. But looking back now and after reading the research that we do have today, I cannot ignore that hormonal birth control was likely a major piece of this much larger puzzle. Nobody warned me. So let's talk about what the research actually says. One of the most interesting developments over the past few years has been what we're learning about the gut microbiome. So we've known for a long time, and I've talked about this for a long time, that birth control impacts the microbiome, but we are actually seeing in peer-reviewed research that was studied or published in 2025 actually confirmed that hormonal contraceptives alter the composition of the gut microbiome. And that matters. Why does it matter? Because your gut isn't just where digestion happens. Your gut regulates immune function, it produces vitamins, it influences inflammation, communicates with your brain, helps regulate hormones, and plays an enormous role in fertility. When the microbiome balance changes over time, the intestinal barrier can become less resilient. The lining of the gut becomes more permeable, and things that normally stay inside the digestive tract are more likely to interact with the immune system. That persistent low-grade immune activation can actually contribute to chronic inflammation. And over many years, in someone who is genetically susceptible and exposed to enough environmental triggers, the immune system can begin losing its ability to distinguish between self and non-self. That's one of the hallmarks of autoimmune disease. Again, birth control isn't the only cause, but it may be one contributor that deserves a place in the conversation. It absolutely does deserve a place here. We also have long-term population studies showing that women with prolonged hormonal contraceptive use have about a 24% higher risk of Crohn's disease and about a 30% higher risk of ulcerative colitis compared to non-users of birth control. These are really meaningful findings, especially when we're talking about diseases that can affect nutrient absorption, inflammation, pregnancy outcomes, and just overall quality of life. Let's move on to nutrients. Hormonal birth control has consistently been associated with lower levels of several nutrients that are incredibly important for fertility: B vitamins, magnesium, zinc, and selenium. These are not random vitamins. These are nutrients involved in energy production, DNA repair, egg quality, sperm quality, detoxification, hormone, like thyroid hormone production, immune regulation, healthy ovulation, healthy implantation, and a healthy pregnancy. Now, imagine taking a medication for 10 or 15 years that slowly increases your demand for many of these nutrients without anyone checking whether you're becoming deficient. Then imagine stopping birth control because you finally are ready to have a baby and your body isn't, just expected to ovulate again. It's expected to build a healthy egg to support implantation. It's expected to grow a placenta, maintain a pregnancy, all while running on nutrient reserves that may have been extremely depleted for years. This is one reason I believe every woman deserves a period of preparation before actually trying to conceive. And it's really not only because your body is broken, or not at all because your body is broken. It's not. It's because your body deserves to be replenished. And yes, there are many women that are depleted despite birth control use, but birth control use just compounds that depletion. And another area that really doesn't get enough attention is bone health. And this one is definitely connected to fertility too, but it's especially concerning for women of middle age, because when you're a young woman, technically between the years of about 12 and 25, your body is designed to build the majority of the bone mass that you'll rely on for the rest of your life. So think of those years like making deposits into a retirement account. The more bone you build during adolescence and early adulthood, the more you'll have available decades later. Estrogen plays a huge role in building this bone, but synthetic hormones and birth control don't produce the same effects on bone tissue as your body's own estrogen. So in adolescence, especially, hormonal contraceptives can reduce bone mineral density gains during this really critical window. And that means that some women may enter adulthood having never reached the peak bone mass they were genetically capable of achieving. You don't necessarily notice this when you're 20 or 25 or even 35. The consequences often show up much later when fracture risk increases and bone density begins naturally declining with age. This isn't something we talk about enough, but let's connect all of this back to fertility, because that's why many of you are here, right? Fertility isn't just about whether you're ovulating, it's about the environment surrounding the egg. And your eggs spend about 3 to 4 months maturing before ovulation. 3 to 4 months maturing in the most influential environment, right? We have our eggs much longer than that, of course, but this 3 to 4 months is a time period we have the most impact or influence on the quality of the egg. So during that time, they're incredibly sensitive to nutrient availability, inflammation, oxidative stress, thyroid health, gut health, blood sugar regulation, and mitochondrial function. If your gut isn't absorbing nutrients well, or if inflammation is elevated, or if your nutrient reserves are depleted, maybe your immune system is chronically activated, all of that is going to change the environment that those eggs are developing in. It can really negatively influence that egg quality and that ovulation quality. It can alter implantation, and it may increase the time, very likely increases the time it takes to conceive. And it can also influence pregnancy outcomes. So the same is true for your future baby's health, because those early weeks of development rely heavily on your nutrient stores. And here's something I think is really important. Many women don't recognize the effects of birth control until they stop taking it. While they're on the pill, synthetic hormones are controlling the cycle. They're often masking symptoms that would have otherwise told us something needs attention. Maybe it's irregular cycles or painful periods. It's the acne, the heavy bleeding, the ovulation problems. Birth control is managing all that. But once the pill is discontinued, these symptoms often return, especially if you took or started taking birth control before puberty was completely established, or that communication between your brain and your reproductive system was completely finished maturing. And this is not because birth control caused every one of them, but because the underlying issue was never addressed. And then the pill was acting like a bandage over the problem that still existed underneath. And then the pill actually compounded the issues by further depleting nutrients, damaging the gut, influencing the immune system. So when you come off of it, these symptoms can be even worse. So where do we go from here? If you've spent years on hormonal birth control, I don't want you leaving this episode feeling discouraged. I want you leaving empowered, because while you cannot undo 15 years of birth control overnight, you absolutely can rebuild what was lost. You can improve your gut health. You can restore your nutrients. You can lower your inflammation and rebuild a healthier microbiome. You can optimize your thyroid and support healthy ovulation. You can improve egg quality over the next 3 to 4 months. This is exactly why I spend so much time looking upstream instead of just jumping straight to IVF. Right? Before we bypass biology, let's understand biology. Let's identify what your body has been asking for. And for many women, that starts with comprehensive blood work instead of being told everything is quote unquote normal. It may include evaluating things like iron status and B12 and folate, vitamin D, overall thyroid function, inflammatory markers, blood sugar regulation, and nutrient status. And even deeper nutrient status than the vitamins that I mentioned, with mineral status, which is often hair sample in my practice. But we also want to look at the gut, gut microbiome, especially if there's gut symptoms happening. But even if there's just that history of birth control, I want to see what's happening in the gut, because barriers are highly likely there, even asymptomatic. Or no GI specific symptoms, I should say. It can also and should also include rebuilding meals, just balance of meals, making sure there's protein and fats and plants and mineral-rich foods, plenty of fibers, and enough calories to support healthy hormones, okay? It also includes strategic supplementation based on your individual needs rather than guessing. The goal is absolutely never perfection. The goal is giving your body the raw materials it has been missing, because your body wants to heal. It wants to ovulate. It wants to support a healthy pregnancy. That's how what it was designed really to do. And sometimes it just needs the right environment to do what it was designed to do. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's episode, it's this. Birth control is not inherently good, and it's not inherently bad. It's a medication, and like every medication, it comes with benefits, limitations, and potential risks. And women deserve to know all of them before making a decision. That's what informed consent really looks like. And if you've already spent years on birth control, please don't waste your energy feeling guilty. You made the best decision you could with the information you had at that time. And now you have more information. Now you have more options, and now you can start really rebuilding. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me listening to this episode. And if you know someone who started birth control as a teenager or someone preparing for pregnancy after years on the pill, send them this episode. This is information every woman deserves to hear. And if you're looking for a step-by-step plan to restore your nutrient status, support your gut, optimize your hormones, and prepare your body for pregnancy, I would love to help you inside my Master Your Fertility program. Reach out and jump on my wait list if you are interested, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fertility Dietitian podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review to let me know what topics you want more of or less of. If you want to keep learning, subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out my website for more info on my private coaching program, Master Your Fertility, or my membership community, Fertility Blueprint. And don't forget my digital store. Come say hi on YouTube and Instagram. See you in the next episode.